Okay. You got me. This is technically not a 90s song. I can't put one past you, savvy viewer. While it's true that the album that it's on, Hear My Cry, wasn't released until February 2000, and the song itself didn't chart in the United States until that year, there is a loophole. Yes, the two most beautiful words in the English language. This song was originally released as a single in the UK in December 1998, before being re-released in 2000. See, right here in the album's liner notes, the year of copyright plants it squarely in the 90s, which means I get to talk about it. Loophole. Anyway, why am I even justifying this? It's my show that nobody watches. So what the hell song am I even talking about? Well, this is It Feels So Good by Sonique, a dance pop track that peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. What exactly is a Sonique? Ask someone who knows and they'll tell you, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm pretending that you asked me. Sonique was born Sonia Marina Clark in Crouch End, North London, England, and she had a bit of a long and twisty path to eventually finding international chart success, which I kind of want to just skip over so I can get to the big hit song that I love so much. But in the interest of fairness, I feel obliged to at least cover the broad strokes of her early biography. Don't worry, we'll get there as soon as we can. Although she grew up in England, both of her parents' families came from Trinidad, and after they divorced, her mother remarried and moved back there with 2 of her siblings, while Sonique chose to stay in London. While she was spending time there in her local YMCA, a youth worker told her that she liked her singing voice and that she should use it. This led to the formation of her first musical project, a reggae band called Fari, where she first honed her songwriting and vocal skills. After that band broke up, she went solo into the then burgeoning dance music scene of the 80s, releasing her first official single, Let Me Hold You, on Cool Tempo Records. Her next major project was a collaboration with DJ Mark Moore's group Sexpress. Sexpress was apparently very influential in breaking the UK house genre through to the mainstream, so Sonique was very much at the forefront of this movement when she and Mark Moore recorded the 1990 album Intercourse. The singles from the album sold decently, but despite the addition of Sonique's vocals, they didn't quite reach the commercial heights of the group's earlier material, and the duo broke up soon after its release. Although they no longer worked together professionally, they remained close friends, and Mark Moore later gave Sonique some turntables and a mixer, as sort of a parting gift following their dissolution as a recording unit. Armed with her new connections in the industry and her own equipment to play around with, Sonique started to get deep into the London dance club scene, attending frequent gigs and cutting her teeth as a DJ. Apparently, she put in 3 years just studying the craft and soaking in the knowledge from mentors like Mark Moore and Judge Jules before she even began spinning records publicly. This part of her biography reads like some real disciplined ninja warrior training. By the time she re-emerged as a force to be reckoned with in dance music, there was no question that she took this stuff utterly seriously. She even signed to a label called Sirius Records. After working on various projects, including contributions to some dance compilation albums and a cover of Screamin' Jay Hawkins' classic I Put a Spell on You, Sonique's music eventually started to pick up airplay in a lot of different markets. From there, the story goes that there was a certain DJ in the Tampa, Florida area who began to play one particular song of hers towards the end of 1999, which led to the track absolutely blowing up across the United States and eventually all over the world. We may never know the identity of that enterprising DJ, or whether the story of how this song crossed over is even true or not, but it does make for a convenient narrative. Certainly it seems like a song that would have caught on eventually one way or another. Although keep in mind that it was originally released as a single in 1998 and achieved only moderate success in the UK at that time. If I had to guess why, using the benefit of first-hand memory, I'd say that 1998 was both a little too early and a little too late for this song. Eurodance pop music of the type that had made acts like Aqua and Hathaway household names had grown stale, and was just starting to fade from relevance. Taking a look around at the other mainstream genres, R&B and rap were still going strong, nu metal and pop punk were just starting to replace the creaky old alternative rock style, and the Britney, Backstreet boy band / TRL era was just about to hit full swing. Dance music needed an infusion of new energy in order to recapture its fleeting success, and it did so by moving away from the pop side of its sound and leaning more towards the heavier, deeper, more hardcore underground and idiosyncratic club vibes. Sound familiar? Yeah, that scene was right in Sonique's wheelhouse. And as the 90s wound down, acts like Fatboy Slim, Daft Punk, White Town, the Chemical Brothers, and Moby all broke through to the mainstream with a more uncompromising version of the techno beats American audiences had grown accustomed to. With less focus on structure and songwriting and far more emphasis on repetition, eclecticism, and sonic exploration. This was the environment that was perfect for accommodating an artist like Sonique. And her single that was maybe a little too ahead of its time at first suddenly fit right in perfectly in the 1999 to 2000 range. Actually, listening to this song some more, I think it would have done well if it had been released a few years earlier, too. Unlike some of those other artists that I mentioned, Sonique never abandoned structure entirely, and the overall production is definitely closer to mainstream dance pop from the middle of the decade, while still retaining a more resolute dedication to the more niche values of its genre. No matter which way you look at it, this is an incredibly professional creation. Those 3 years she spent learning how to DJ really show. This does not sound like a newcomer, but more like a crafty veteran with a lot of experience who knows just how to get the sound that they want. The production is intricately lush and exquisitely detailed, layering contrasting sounds such as orchestral strings, choir-style backing vocals, and bleepity-bloopity synths in a way that never quite feels crowded, where you can hear each musical element clearly in isolation from each other, and you can also simply allow the stately wall of sound to wash over you like a wave, forcefully yet gently. Now, her songwriting isn't quite as advanced as her production and arranging skills at this point, but the song does boast one of the most memorable call-and-response hooks I think I've ever heard. It almost sounds like two great alternating choruses going on at once, each one setting up the other, never getting in the way of the song's momentum and persistent breakbeat. In fact, the song pretty much is just the hook, as both verses kind of feel like afterthoughts.
It's not the way you walk, and it ain't the way you talk.
They are a little different from each other, so that adds a little intrigue, but mostly they function as placeholders before the high points of the chorus kick back in again. And then the song basically just repeats its chorus several times with little to no variation before abruptly stopping. Hey, there's something to be said for knowing your strengths. Did I mention that Sonique was almost 35 years old when this song hit? It may have been a long road to chart success for her, but the wait had been worth it. Although the newfound prominence of DJ-driven dance music and rave culture probably helped her reach the mainstream, she wasn't quite able to capitalize on that trend in the long run. Not because she didn't have the ability, but perhaps more because she didn't really want to. On her debut album, Hear Me Cry, she proved to be more of a genre-hopping pioneer than a bandwagon jumper. If anything, Sonique may have been too diverse for her own good, focusing just as much on genres like funk, R&B, pop, and soul as she did the more familiar dance sound that had propelled her to popularity. Clearly, she wasn't interested in only being a DJ or a dance pop artist and aspired to a musical identity closer to that of Seal or Desiree. In that way, she also reminds me a bit of Moby, which I know doesn't seem like a flattering comparison, but they both had similar approaches in using electronic dance music as a jumping-off point to experiment with more diverse fusions of different genres. Also, she's got a much better singing voice than Moby ever did, so obviously I made this comparison without putting too much thought into it. Diversity aside, this hit single helped to usher in a new era of post-90s dance pop that redefined how the music was perceived in the mainstream. As the new millennium wore on, the public's taste for the genre moved more into the arena of artists like Alice DJ, DJ Sammy, Serena Paris, and Darude of Sandstorm fame, all of whom embodied more the stereotypes of straight-ahead techno and rave culture. The genre was no longer required to make concessions to pop songwriting conventions in order to cross over by this point. You didn't really hear songs that tried to be a hybrid of 90s Eurodance and modern electronica the way that It Feels So Good was, and in general this style no longer seemed as steeped in history and tradition as a veteran and student of the game like Sonique could make it sound. This song was a brilliant flash signaling the dawning of a new day, unfortunately one that wouldn't include its creator. As for Sonique, she never got close to this level of success again, but she did continue DJing and recording new music off and on in the years to come. Around the beginning of this decade, she also beat breast cancer, just before releasing her most recent album, Sweet Vibrations, in 2011. Sonique is a true survivor, and for those who remember this song, her music still endures. And that's the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really makes a difference. It warms my little heart, and every time my metrics budge and Angel gets its wings. Also, please contribute to my Patreon, which I don't have yet, but I might set one up later on, and when I do, I'll go back and edit the description to put a link to it in there. You could be watching this in the future, for all I know. By the way, if you are watching this in the future, please let me know. Did we save the world? Also, if I have any sponsors by them, please support their fine products, which I fully endorse. I think that's it. I took like a month off from making videos. Honestly, it's not a really good time for me to be making these right now, but pretty soon I'm sure things will go back to normal around here, and until then, this was 90s Quick Hits, and I'll see you sometime in the future.